I did get ice cream for Britney Spears one time. I'll
Okay.
never forget that either. What's it called? Pinkberry. Pinkberry.
Yeah.
We got to hear that story.
I
Hello, and welcome to a brand new year of Talkback On, episode 19, where we dive into stories from the other side of the studio glass for professionals in K-pop. This is the first and only place where award-winning creators behind K-pop's biggest hits share their experience and knowledge in songwriting, production, and even publishing. We have the award-winning hitmaker and legend of K-pop origins, Jae Chong.
Woo!
We also have the award-winning multi-platinum producer and songwriter, as well as the CEO of Decade Plus Music Publishing, KAIROS.
Yeah.
And myself, KO, an audio engineer and director of A&R at Decade Plus Music. Before we get into our show, please be sure to follow @TalkbackOn on all social media platforms and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Also, hit that bell icon to receive notifications on our latest news and giveaways. Our Discord server is also in the links below, so join us in our growing community of songwriters and producers where you can also enter future contests, giveaways, and even more fun goodies. Lastly, before we introduce our amazing guest for today, our circuit board segment will feature tips on getting over writer's block. So stay tuned, and we will see you guys right here when we get back. Hey, what's up, guys? It's KO here. Today on Circuit Board, we're going to go over some tips on getting over writer's block. So let's jump right into it. Tip number 1, preparation is key. This is my personal way of how I like to work. And it just involves me scheduling sessions beforehand, meaning I will not touch or just try to wing making a track right on the spot. It's more about being able to collect the samples or making sure that I have the template ready so I can navigate through my session quicker. But also to be able to prepare the sounds that I need, creating instrument tracks, whatever is going to help me get going when I'm actually focused on writing the song. So make sure that you guys have those all in place before you even start writing. Tip number 2, although most briefs will have references as well as directions, you can use cross-references to just kind of figure out your own sounds. For example, if your reference and direction is something that is bubbly or something that is more pop-driven, you can find guitar sounds or reference guitar sounds from different songs, or find a lead melody or a lead sound that you really like and use that as an inspiration source for your next song. Tip number 3, using song starters or loops. There's nothing wrong with them. I like to use them, and sometimes it sparks my creativity, and I can even import the lead melody and mess around with it in Melodyne, change the tuning, or even export it as MIDI and change some of the notes around, along with using my sound patch. Lastly, you can always switch things up by going out and getting some fresh air and sunlight, or changing up the lighting in your room. You can also visit public places like a cafe to inspire new types of writing. But hopefully you guys got something out of this one, and I'll see you guys next time. Welcome back. Hope you guys liked our latest circuit board segment. Let's dive right into our episode because I'm very excited to have our guest today on Talkback On podcast. Our featured star guest for today has an amazing track record working with NCT, WayV, SHINee, Red Velvet, Girls' Generation, Stray Kids, Chris Brown, Lady Gaga, Whitney Houston, Quincy Jones, and many more. Hailing from Chi-Town, please welcome Mike Daly, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Welcome.
Your work has a huge impact and shaped the sound of some of the major groups out there. So to kick things off, please tell us about how you got here.
So I guess just a quick rundown on my story would be from Chicago, graduated high school, went to college for 2 years at Arizona. Wasn't really locked into college. I was kind of having too much fun partying, and yeah, I wasn't really like locked in. I never had that much freedom in my life, so definitely kind of wasted those 2 years of college. Had to move back home, was working for a couple months when all my friends moved back to college and everything. And then I moved to Los Angeles. I found a music production school that guaranteed you an internship at a studio in LA. Or that's like kind of what their brochure said. And it was a lot cheaper than Full Sail. Full Sail was kind of when I Googled like, audio engineer program, the one that was kind of coming up the most. But yeah, that was like a 2-year program in Florida. I didn't know anyone in Florida. And the Los Angeles Music School was a lot more affordable, only a 9-month program. And I knew a couple people in LA, kind of going to school on the West Coast a little bit. So yeah, I moved to LA, went to this music school, and I got a couple interviews and didn't get my first interview. Second interview, I got with the Underdogs, who were like a big R&B kind of powerhouse, R&B pop kind of powerhouse in LA. They had a big studio that had a ton of songwriters and producers and like kind of A-list artists there. So I got really lucky. I did well in my interview, got that job, and kind of overnight was in the middle of the industry. Like I was an intern and a runner, so I wasn't doing a lot, but I was getting to see kind of how everything worked. I remember that first month or two on the job, I learned so much more than I did in school for 9 months. And that's not really knocking the school. That's just like really what on the job kind of training in Los Angeles, like at a major studio, could teach you really quick. So, yeah, I ended up kind of working my way up at the Underdogs studio from kind of intern to assistant engineer. I ended up being the studio manager and kind of like A&Ring for them, trying to find new writers and producers, all the while like I didn't feel like my beats were kind of good enough to play them for a while. And then, yeah, just kind of one thing led to another. And some of the writers knew I was making beats. And basically, because I was engineering a lot of these guys, I had a really good relationship with a lot of the writers up there. And a lot of the writers at the Underdog studio were like kind of top of the line. So in my mind, like to get them to write to my track was like, that was like my goal for the longest, not to like get on the radio or get an award or anything. I just wanted someone to write to my tracks. And then, yeah, I had some guys kind of forced me to play some beats and wrote some songs, and those things kind of like started taking off. One got placed, another one got placed. And then all of a sudden I was talking about doing like paperwork with the Underdogs to become a producer in their like system. And yeah, kind of overnight from being a studio manager to having like my first cut through the Underdogs on Chris Brown, my whole life really changed. And then I went kind of like 100% into producing. The Underdogs had some type of relationship with SM. And Harvey was getting flown out to Korea to go work on music. And he took me on his first trip. And that trip ended up being pretty successful. We did Mr. Mister for Girls' Generation. So I like co-produced that with Harvey and another producer, kind of engineer. And that was kind of the start of my K-pop journey. Started going out to Korea a couple times a year with Harvey, because he'd have like a camp. And those were always pretty successful. Like he was kind of dialed into that. We all were. And once I got kind of out of my situation with the Underdogs, I reached out to all like the people I knew at SM that I kind of built a relationship over the last couple years. And then that was kind of the beginning of me starting to not co-produce anymore and be like the main producer on records. And then, yeah, I've just been kind of working really closely with SM since then. And then a couple other labels, but nothing quite as close as like my relationship with SM. So that's kind of like the majority of my K-pop cuts come from over there. But yeah, that's kind of, I don't know, that went longer than I wanted.
That's great.
That's kind of how I got into the K-pop world. And then once I was in it, I kind of just dove in head first. Yeah, I'm still kind of pretty busy working on K-pop all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, it seemed like, like as you were kind of explaining, you wore a lot of hats, coming from the engineering background, but even going into the studio business in itself is a completely different ball game. Do you think all of those experiences actually helped you become who you are today?
Yeah, 100%. Even like in that mix, I had I signed an artist and got a rapper from Chicago. Got that artist a deal with Rick Ross, and I kind of thought that was the path I was going to be on. Stuff kind of didn't work out in that situation. And this ended up being like the path I'm on. But yeah, kind of having to do all that business type of stuff in the industry before ever getting to kind of make beats. Yeah, always gave me like a business side of things, or like a perspective of the business side of things. Yeah, which has helped me in my career a lot. I think there's a lot of people that are incredible at music, but kind of look over the business side of things. And yeah, I think they let some stuff slide or whatever, not being on point with their business. So yeah, I think that's definitely helped me a lot. Kind of always trying to check the business, make sure the business is right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they called us the game for a reason, right? It's not only just a talent. There's definitely some homework that you got to do as well too. So definitely on the same page with you on that.
Yeah, that's crazy. I actually came out here and I started engineering a lot. I was with, Dave Pintato, we mentioned him a little bit ago. I was with his camp. So, I was bouncing around studios and, a lot of A-list songwriters and producers, artists, and just being around them. It's like the LA circuit is so unique in that sense. I feel like, they call it the music capital, especially for pop music. And, so much of, I guess the trends start here, I would say, and it starts going out there. So I feel like, just being out here, coming from the Midwest myself, it's so different. I remember walking into a studio and, they asked me about my experience and I was like, well, I was the chief engineer here in Chicago and there, and they said, what, it doesn't matter. It's like, it doesn't matter what you did out there. This is LA, and so I was like, oh man, like, yeah, and they're like, just think of yourself as nothing, zero, and start from the bottom. You're going to start all over again. And so it was a grind, but I love hearing stories like that because, there's, people think about that. I mean, it's so different now, I'm sure, but, like, coming up during that time period, it was so unique, just meeting people. I met Rose Cherney, who was kind of like the pioneer of the studio hospitality, culture. And she really told me about what it means to be in the business of service, and understanding how to treat a client and how to, gain clients. And, yeah, man, like it was so, I think it was like, a blessing to be a part of that kind of, environment.
Yeah, I did. Like, I kind of made it seem like it was pretty quick, but there was, from me starting off as an intern and kind of like cleaning the studio and the bathrooms and getting people food every day, to me getting signed as a producer was a 4-year.
Oh yeah.
Where I was kind of like, chugging along, getting small little promotions here and there, but definitely being from the Midwest and just being able to take care of people and do that like in a kind of Midwest way, I think helped me out when I was an intern and a runner and getting people food all the time. Like, yeah, I think just wanting to take care of people or just kind of organically taking care of people made it easy for me to kind of just, get people food, clean up after them and all that type of stuff, which, yeah, some people fumble all that type of stuff.
Absolutely.
I remember a lot of interns that came and went that couldn't just, get the basics down. So even though it's funny to talk about the little things, like I feel like those are the things that kind of got me going to the next level.
I remember one of the, I believe it was like the president of the studio. He came by and he walked right past her and he looked at her and just kind of like stared at her. And she said, "Oh, how are you doing, sir?" And he said, "I'm doing fine," and then they just kind of stared at each other for a few seconds. He walked past her and he pointed out to the studio manager, "We got to get rid of her." And it was all because she didn't offer water. And people wonder like, "Oh man, isn't that crazy in LA?" Well, when I was out here, it was crazy. I've seen people get fired because they got ketchup stains on their shirt. I've seen people get fired because they didn't get the food got too cold because they didn't get back in time. It was just crazy. But one thing definitely that I learned, I got out of that whole system was the fact that like if I can't, if they can't trust me, serve them food or clean a toilet, how in the world can they trust me, take over a session, So that's a big lesson that I learned and something that I feel like, should be more implemented today. But,
I messed up my first food order. I'll never forget it. Getting breakfast. And it's almost like it was a blessing. I was so new that they kind of like let it slide.
Oh man, yeah.
But it was such a learning lesson that I was so on top of opening the thing, checking the food, and making sure it was right from that day on.
Yeah.
Like for anything, if it was a burrito, I'm like, I need to make sure what's in this burrito is right. I can't bring this back if this isn't right.
Did you ever have to go get ice cream?
Oh yeah, definitely had to get ice cream.
That's the worst. Yeah.
I had to get ice cream for Britney Spears one time. I'll never forget that either. What's it called? Pinkberry.
Yeah.
We got to hear that story.
We were working with Britney. I was an intern. This was like my first month. I was like, couldn't even believe it that I was like delivering food and stuff. But yeah, it was Britney and K-Fed. K-Fed was up there. I had his like credit card for like a month or something. Just like he like just gave it to me, and whenever he needed stuff would tell me to go get it or text me to go get it. But yeah, that was a really crazy introduction to like the music industry. The first like kind of month as a runner or intern or whatever it was. Yeah, Britney Spears was probably the most memorable like intern session I had for sure.
Pinkberry melts faster than regular ice cream.
Yeah. Yep. I like ice packs in it.
Yep.
The dry ice.
Yeah. I remember.
It's
crazy.
That's a pro move right there. Yeah.
I think it's definitely just to add on to Kairos' point of, having if they can't trust you to deliver food, how can they trust you to even do that? It's crazy that when we go through these, intern phases, it almost kind of lives with us. And I think, as we talk about just people who find success in any kind of industry, it requires a certain type of mindset, but also somebody willing to just get down and get their hands dirty, so it's definitely a valuable lesson. And it's something it's even till this day, just kind of lives on in all of us.
It's all like, it's definitely something I'm proud of now. That's like part of my journey. But also like, I always remember hearing that like Puffy started as an intern. So I always had enough motivation. Like I had enough to just like, I was ready to go when I was an intern. I was ready to do whatever they asked me to try to get to not being an intern anymore.
Yep.
Speaking of DNA, one of the things that you and Kairos have in common is that you guys are both from Chicago. How does that influence your taste and sound?
It's funny. I think before I got with the Underdogs, I was like a completely different type of producer. I was making like a bunch of Kanye kind of soul sample hip hop beats. I was going to Amoeba after class every day to the 99 section and trying to find samples. I was doing a lot of stuff, and all I really ever wanted to do at that point was like make a beat for Jay-Z. That was like my goal. Once I got with the Underdogs, everything was completely different. They were like, you need a MacBook computer. We use Logic. We don't sample anything. You need to learn some chords. It's like very musical over there. So my style completely changed. And that's almost why it took 4 years for me to ever get to like a point where I felt like I could play people beats. I felt like I had to like completely start over, and I didn't like have enough time to really learn. Like I was getting there at like 11 o'clock and leaving at like 2 or 3 in the morning, like 5 days a week, and then maybe there either Saturday or Sunday, like one of the weekend days. So I stopped making beats a ton of times in those 4 years and was doing all the other stuff, like trying to manage people, trying to sign an artist and get them a deal, like kind of stopped on that dream a bunch of times getting there. And then, yeah, I think now I'm at a point where I was making almost beats for the Underdogs for a long time, like just co-producing and more so trying to make stuff that I thought they would like. More so than like, oh, I think Chris Brown will like this. I'm like, I want the Underdogs to like this and then them to work on it. And then hopefully it could get to Chris Brown or whatever. To now, like, thinking about the artist first and now implementing some of those like original kind of high pitched stuff. Just like some of the old school Kanye type of stuff that I was doing in the beginning, I still like will throw in all these types of beats now. So yeah, it's kind of like all come full circle. But I definitely like had to kind of shed that Chicago hip hop identity as a producer to like get into the music industry.
Right. What's your favorite Kanye album? Tough question.
I know. Maybe Graduation, but the first album, like I had early, like we had it before it came out. I remember being in high school in the parking lot, like playing it before anyone had heard it. That was like, I felt like the coolest person in the world.
Yeah.
At that time. But like my wife loves Late Registration, so I listen to that a lot, and that's an incredible album too. It's really hard for me to choose, but maybe College Dropout just because of the memories. But musically, probably Graduation.
Now, question for you: When do you think you had a moment where you felt like you successfully developed your signature sound?
Trying to think. I think NCT Boss was a big moment for me. At that time, NCT, like it was all about like EXO at that time.
Right.
So
Boss is a great record, by the way.
Thank you. That's also one that I didn't know. I had no idea it was going to be a single and didn't really know it was even making the album and never thought of it as a single. And then that just had a lot of success, not even numbers wise, like not sales wise or YouTube wise, just kind of like impact wise. That song did really well. And that kind of jump started me as like being looked at for singles. I think there's like a ton of guys that are getting on albums and getting album cuts here and there, but you can kind of tell the guys that they're like looking to over and over for the singles. And that kind of pushed me into that ballpark a little bit. And then that kind of started me creating like the NCT sound that I have for them. So yeah, I think Boss kind of set everything in motion in terms of them trusting that I could produce a single, because I think they looked at me as talented, and I was getting some kind of album cuts, but I don't know if they trusted that I could make like a single for one of their like groups. But yeah, after that went pretty well, that door was open, and then just kind of kept trying to deliver singles to them, and then I think because Boss had kind of opened that door, that they're more receptive to listening to my music, like with that ear, like, oh, this could be a single, this could be a single. And then, once you kind of get that ball rolling, you just want to like ride that as long as you can.
Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, I mean, speaking of NCT, I feel like you're one of the pioneers in shaping NCT sound. Could you tell us some of the creative process in developing that sound and your thoughts on how their music evolved?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is like SM and their vision for NCT. And I think I was just kind of making the type of music at that time that lined up. And we were just experimenting, but a lot of it was this kind of like dirty bass, growly bass, a little like, it's funny, I always see it on Twitter, like noise music, with some of the NCT stuff, like people that are kind of not fans of NCT. And I understand what they're saying, because it's definitely kind of like industrial, mechanical stuff going on in the beats. But yeah, when I'm doing that, I'm trying to find something catchy, but that's also like a little grimy or dirty, to build the whole kind of track around, whether that's like a kind of grimy bass or something, or some type of like high lead. But yeah, I think the NCT records are just, at least the ones I've done, are a lot of like big performance type of records, which I'm thinking about when I'm making them. And yeah, just a little bit darker than some of the other stuff like that they were doing, darker than some SHINee stuff, or I guess EXO's got some dark stuff too. But yeah, just trying to like dirty up some of the records is kind of what started to work for them, or for me working with them.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, Kairos mentioned it as well too. Boss is a really good record. It's probably one of my favorites as well too from NCT, and it's really cool to just kind of see where they're at even today now. Crazy big amounts of success.
It really is. It's kind of crazy. I've kind of seen that. I've met them at like different times when they're in LA of their journey. But yeah, year after year, it's like, even backstage, it's like crazier and crazier. It's harder to get to them. Just year after year, it's like you can kind of see their stardom growing.
Yeah, and not only that, the group seemed to get a lot bigger too. And do you possibly like envision in terms of like these artists or certain members of the group performing certain sections of the track, or especially when you're making these beats? Is it just the overall group feel, or do you kind of specifically vision certain members on being part of the track as well too?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily thinking about individual artists on it, but I am breaking down like first half of the verse and second half of the verse have to have some type of switch up. So it could be one artist and then another artist on the second half. Generally, most of my NCT stuff has a really R&B musical B section, which is kind of like the underdog style in me. And then that's usually for like the singer, or, you know, whoever's got the best voice. In terms of like the R&B singing. And then, same second verse, I'll try to switch something up so it's not the exact same as the first verse. same, switch up the second half as well. So that's like 4 members just on the verses. And then bridge can be like a R&B bridge, depending on what group it's for. Sometimes it could be like a dance breakdown, like turn up section. That I guess kind of depends on the group, like which section of NCT we're working on or whatever, and what they're doing. I feel like, like some of the groups, a super R&B bridge will work great. Some of the groups might want like a little dance kind of crowd chant section, for that part. So yeah, I'm not necessarily thinking about each individual person, but more so, the group and making enough sections for everyone to have a part.
Yeah, I think that's really important because it is a performance overall, right?
Yeah.
And I like how you kind of describe each section almost like it's a place for somebody to shine, but at the end it's meant for like an overall group performance. So I think that's really important, especially when a lot of people tend to make tracks for this. It's not just the sounds that you pick, it's also, it seems like you're kind of watching a movie, except you're hearing it, so it takes you through the ups and downs.
Yeah, the formula to it is definitely, I think once you can kind of crack that formula and know how to make enough sections for everyone, that's when you can like kind of start having fun. I feel like people that don't understand that get frustrated, but they're not thinking about why you need each section. But yeah, once you kind of start thinking that way, it's fun. It's definitely a lot more like I'm not making like 10 K-pop beats a day. Like those beats take longer than normal beats because there are so many sections to them. But yeah, definitely thinking about the performance also.
What's your demo production process like, in terms of like, do you have like an actual vocalist sing the entire song in English and send it to them, or how does that work?
Yeah, so everything changed kind of post-COVID. Before COVID, I was going out to Korea twice a year and bringing 5 or 6 people with me. And out there, I generally have like 3 rooms going, maybe 4 days a week. We get there on Sunday, kind of work Monday through Thursday. Friday is like the playback day. So maybe we could squeeze a song or 2 in on Friday, but generally it's kind of, I have 3 rooms working a day. So I try to give about 12 to 15 songs by the end of the week. But out here, and all those songs are written in English, and we try to make them sound like a hit in English. I think that's kind of some of the sauce. Like if we can make it come across like this could be a hit over here as well, while marrying those little elements that they don't have here, the B section and a bridge and everything, that can get people excited over there. But if I'm not in Korea, I'm generally working with writers. Most of the writers I work with sing as well, like they demo the song that they're writing. We're generally doing it in English. I think a lot of people that start with K-pop think that you can just kind of like everything's going to get translated and you don't have to really write a good song, which can happen sometimes. But for me, I'm still trying to deliver a record that sounds like it could be a hit out here also. So I need it to be a good song. It can't just be kind of some random fluff. How
do your writers like for example, like when I work with writers, they'll write out the entire song in English, and then like 80 or 90% of the lyric is replaced by a native language, right? So how does that work for you guys?
That happens a lot, but I've also had like NCT does some stuff in English too. So I've had a lot of songs where they've cut it completely in English as well as a Korean version. or keep like, you know, a couple main phrases, main lines and everything. But yeah, that's kind of the part of the process is for us to deliver a song that sounds good in English. And then there's a translator whose job it is to kind of keep the integrity of that record and make it sound good in Korean. But yeah, probably 80 or 90% of the songs are a majority translation. But then, yeah, as time goes on, there's more and more kind of English. It seems to be whether they're working on like an all English song or want to have part of a verse in English, or yeah, I just think trying to capture some of like that Western fan base has led to more English in some of these records.
Now, like, do you get briefed by the A&R team in terms of direction, or are you guys like left to kind of do your own thing?
Yeah, I definitely get briefed. Or sometimes I'll bring my own ideas. Like, hey, I heard this record the other day, or I was in the studio and this artist is working on some stuff like this. We should get on that before it comes out, and maybe we could front run that type of vibe. Like, there's always a ton of discussions about the direction of the album, but I will say that K-pop, like the A&Rs are a lot more heavily involved than over here. They definitely have like briefs and like styles of songs or directions of the album that they're looking for, more so than like when I'm working with a US artist or something like that. That seems to be more just like, oh, we need a hit record, we need something cool. Versus, yeah, the K-pop A&Rs are, yeah, it seems like there's like a lot more discussion, a lot more involvement and meetings going into like what exactly they're looking for.
That's an important thing that you brought up, especially about just writing good music. Too many people think like, oh, it's just going to get replaced anyways. Let's just, I've heard demos where they just literally mutter words.
Yeah. And I get it. But yeah, I just, there's a lot of people that I think come into writing K-pop thinking it's easier to get a placement or easier than the working in the US market, and don't treat it how they're supposed to. For me, I've witnessed year after year the amount of people trying to do K-pop, trying to get in this industry is growing like exponentially. So for me, I'm trying to deliver records that would blow Boss out of the water now. Like, to me, that's I'm constantly trying to outdo myself, and I need writers to do the same thing, is try to outdo their last record and really take this seriously.
Yeah, I think definitely having that set standard as well as a goal for yourself, it's got to be beyond just just having or showcasing a top line melody,
right?
I think the lyrics are almost like a puzzle piece that you fit in to make sure that the whole thing just kind of comes in a complete package. And as you said, actually, it's kind of funny because KAIROS is some of KAIROS' biggest songs where they kept the same title as the demo that we originally sent them.
The title is so important to me. Like, the title can make or break it. Really.
Yeah. And
the title is almost like everything. If it sounds like a single, or like, yeah, when we're writing and starting it off, if we could get a good concept or a good title, I'm excited. Like, and not really until that, because we could have a good song but not a good title, and I'm like, that's not. Then it's got to be packaged like perfectly, like you said, where they're like, oh, that sounds like a single. That word looks like a single. Like, we could do a marketing plan with this word.
Yeah, though that's awesome, because we definitely spent a lot of time on just trying to figure out the name first, like a demo.
Yeah.
Like we would finish like the mix, even just some of the. Yeah, we would have like a mastering, run it through the chain and everything, and then right before we send it, we'll literally just sit there and just try to figure out the right title for the song.
Yeah.
it sounds silly, right? It's like, you know, the amount of time we spend on even just trying to figure out the name for the song, it would be kind of humorous, I guess, to
yeah. I think, and I've had times where like I couldn't decide, so I like put one title, then in parentheses another title. Like, I don't know if either of these look good to you.
Yep. Yeah, and you said something so important. I think just the overall package, the way we present, the presentation has to be, you know,
right.
80%, you know, so absolutely I agree with that.
Yeah. And all that is from like, a lot of that is from being around the Underdogs and seeing how they did it. So almost like I'm just trying to do it how I was taught. And I was taught like really to try to deliver it like a whole package. So yeah, it just always made sense to kind of do it that way.
I had to kind of recently change the way I sent demos, because I think a lot of the new A&Rs now, they have they have kind of this different way of looking at even just the titles. Like for instance, when we sent a bunch of demos to this label, and they said, "Oh, you know, can we get the real thing?" And I said, "What do you mean the real thing? You know, we just sent you our demos." And they said, "Well, it just says like demo sketch. Can we get like the final version?" And I said, "It is the final version. You know, we're not just sending you pieces of ideas here. You know, like have you heard the demos? I mean, you know, they're fully mixed." And they're like, okay, I just thought, you know, it was because it said like sketch or demo at the end of the extension. I said, so the way when I was coming up, I was always told, like, if you write demo or sketch and the mix is just killer, you know, and you even master it, I mean, they're going to be blown away.
Right, undersell it. Yeah.
And so, that's the way we've always done it. But now, like a lot, you know, some of the A&Rs are coming to me and saying, "Hey, you know, can we get the real thing?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" You know,
that's crazy.
Spend a lot of time on that, you know. But yeah, so we're for some people, I think we're now changing it to mix, like mix one.
Yeah. You know? Yeah, it makes sense.
One thing I learned, you know, even back in the day was like in Korea, there's this little superstition where, you know, like, they say like whatever the title of the song is what's going to happen to the group. Right? So like, you know, if you say like, I don't know, like goodbye or, you know, Audi 5000, whatever, then you know, so like you have to sort of pick a title where it's like, it's supposed to empower the group sort of, you know, instead of like,
good things could happen.
Being a downer, right?
Yeah. Interesting.
Now, you know, I think Jaehyun kind of covered this a little bit, but, you know, when you do receive a lead or a direction or talk to these A&Rs, I know that there are like references, you know, they usually lay out the directions in like by wording. How do you creatively interpret that?
Yeah, I think that's like the hardest part is trying to figure it out. But most of the time there's a couple leads, references, and they're not always like 3 songs that would be played like right after each other. So I kind of like try to treat it like a puzzle. Like, okay, like why did they send these songs? Generally, what they're sending are some fire records. Like I've definitely been put on to a lot of music by some of these leads where I'm like, whoa, like who is this artist? Like this song is amazing. So I do credit them to finding a lot of these references that like were never on my like never in front of me. But yeah, I think I try to find the coolest part of the record that they're sending me, and then try to do my like own vibe of getting that kind of cool element. And then I'm able to like make a record without it sounding like a copycat. If I could just kind of catch like what made that record cool and try to do that in my own kind of way. But yeah, that's kind of that's like the $1 million question really, is trying to deliver the vibe of what they're trying to get, without trying to like, you know, do like a cover of the song that they're asking.
Yeah, you know, it's like they send a reference that just happens to be like the world's biggest song at the time or something, right? You know, like
does that though too.
Yeah, you know, some songs have a very distinct sound, right? Like like Uptown Funk, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm sure there's been like a million A&Rs that sent that out as reference during that period.
Post Malone, Doja Cat.
Oh my gosh.
Man, definitely a ton of, but I get it. I mean, they're just songs that work. So, yeah, they want something like that. But yeah, it definitely, I feel like working as an A&R in Korea is like a real, like you're probably exhausted from the work you're doing at the end of the day. Whereas out here, it seems like it's more of, like you're like the coach and you're not like you're not working harder than the writers and the producers or any of that stuff. But I don't know 100%, but yeah, it just feels like there's a lot of work that go into these kind of leads and concepts of the album and exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah. And, it's the biggest thing is making it stand out as well too, right? Like the overall product. And I think that's really important when we talked about like even naming the song and stuff like that. These guys receive 200 songs a day, like hundreds of songs, sometimes even thousands a week. So, you got to go that extra mile to make things stand out a little bit, especially the name of the song too. So I think that's really important.
Definitely.
I heard a tip from an A&R friend, and she said, if the reference was Doja Cat, they get literally they're monitoring like 1,000 Doja Cat songs, and they all sound very similar. And she said, if you can just put some sort of like sound source or something that kind of stands out, where as A&Rs we're just so tired of hearing Doja Cat references, and then boom, if it pops up, then we're going to catch those a lot easier than if it was just a Doja Cat song. So I think to your point, like it's very important that we do try something more interesting than the actual reference itself.
Right. Yeah, you got to try to like beat the reference, really.
Yeah.
For sure.
But yeah, sound source in K-pop is so key. I feel like I spent a lot of time trying to get the right sound, more so than the right chords or melody. Once you get the right sound, it's like kind of like, okay, this sounds like the sound I needed for a single, and now I can figure that part out, how to turn this into a cool loop.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have any like special routine you do before a session? And it's follow-up questions. What are like some of your top plugins or gear that you need in your toolbox before every session?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't really have a super routine. I really don't. I kind of just start a new session and get to it. I also I'm like when it's time to make a beat, it's like I'm in like work mode. I'm not necessarily just like, oh, like let me make a beat right now because I feel like making a beat. So I usually there's a lot of intention into what I'm doing. Like I'm trying to either make something for some K-pop or make something for whatever I'm kind of getting asked for at the time. I'm not necessarily just making music and like, oh, maybe this will work for something. So 90% of the time I'm working on something that like kind of needs to get done. So yeah, I don't have like let me meditate and just what comes out type of moment in my routine. But plugin wise, I'm trying to think. I feel like I need to open the session up. I feel like I use Serum a lot. I definitely use Serum basses a lot for the K-pop stuff. I feel like a lot of the NCT basses I used were from Serum. I use this Endless Smile plugin a lot that has like a really cool kind of like build up reverb delay thing that you can throw on stuff that I like to kind of automate. I like to automate a lot of stuff, kind of filter in and filter out of tracks. I feel like I do that in almost every beat at some point, try to like filter the track out or muffle it just to give it a moment. I'm trying to think. I've had the same master for like forever that I got from Harvey, which is like ozone, some ozone stuff. It's really Harvey's master that I've just used since I've been over there. And yeah, I still use it. I've got a God particle that I use once in a while just for like a quick master. But yeah, I don't know. I've had the same master since like, I think it's like saved from like 2018 that I've been using this same kind of ozone, couple different ozone things. Trying to think what else. I drag and drop a lot. Like I think there's a lot of audio in my session. I don't know why I do that or how I started doing that. I just, from the beginning of me using Logic, I don't know. I think I started on Fruity Loops and on like a PC, and you could just kind of like drag over the sound and it would make like a MIDI track with it. But Logic at that time was like you had to like import it into a sampler and spread it out over the keys and all this stuff. So I ended up just starting to like drag in my drum files. So yeah, I think that's one of the weirder things I do that I don't necessarily see like all other producers do. Like even my hi-hats are like, it almost looks like a Pro Tools session, like with a ton of audio and not a ton of MIDI unless it's like synths and stuff. All my synths are MIDI, but yeah, most of my drums are kind of I drag in. I'm trying to think what else is like a go-to thing.
Anything for like mixing, like LA2A, UAD, LA2A, or any? There's a lot of UAD stuff, I think.
I don't use it. I use a ton of. I still use like a ton of waves. Hold on, I have to like pull up. I have so many like I don't even like really think about what they are. Plugin Alliance. I think I use a bunch of Plugin Alliance stuff. Trying to think. It's funny. I should have had better answers for this. I love watching like Pensado's Place and all that stuff where they give all the juicy stuff away. But yeah, I think I have like a bunch of sounds I've been using forever that I still use, and then the drums are kind of what I'm updating more than synths. I use like that Prince synth. That's the same company as the God particle. I've been using that a lot lately.
How about reverb?
Reverb. I like that. I like that Endless Smile reverb. That's like one of my favorite kind of reverbs to put on stuff. I'll throw like Valhalla Vintage on. Hold on, let me just like pull up a session. Like I don't even know what I'm using. I like to. There's like some stuff on Plugin Alliance where I can kind of like mono the bottom part of like my subs and stuff. So I always try to do that to clean up the like bottom of my mix. Trying to think what else I kind of do on everything. I've just got like a couple like kind of buses that I've used for a long time that have like a bunch of different plugins on them. But yeah, my master's got Ozone 5 Exciter, then the Ozone 5, the actual Ozone 5, and then the L2 kind of at the end, just cleaning it up a little bit.
Are you mixing all the records yourself, or are you sending them out?
Yeah, I'm mixing everything. And kind of while I'm producing, I'm mixing. I don't ever take like I feel like I need to take more time to like actually mix. I'm kind of doing it all at once and then recording the vocals, throwing them into that session, and then yeah, kind of mixing it all as I go along. But I started out as like an engineer and kind of mixing stuff, so it just speeds up the process. I think there are better mixers than me. But for me to send all these files, these K-pop songs are like 100 tracks, 120 tracks sometimes. So like send that to a mixer and try to get that back quickly and want it to sound how I want it to sound has just never worked out. So, I kind of produce it, record it, mix it, and then send it off.
Now, when you're doing the writing sessions out in Korea, like, are you making some of these tracks on the fly, or do you have them pre-made?
Yeah, so generally, I'll try to. I've been going out there like since 2013, so I kind of have like a little rapport with them. But yeah, I'll try to send them maybe 5 or 10. I'll try to send them more than 5 or 10, but enough where they can kind of green light maybe 5 tracks before we get out there.
Mm-hmm.
And the first day or day and a half, I'll be like, the writers will be writing, and then I'm making new stuff with the A&Rs there, and kind of that's very helpful too. How hands-on they are in terms of like, no, that's not the vibe we want. Even to the point of like, can we go to a different chord here? Like just stuff that you're not really used to working in the States, where it's basically like thumbs up or thumbs down. There isn't a lot of discussion about the actual music going on. But yeah, so I'll try to have like maybe 5 tracks that I'll send like a week prior to me going. I'll probably send like 10 over and hope that there's 3 or 5 that they like. And those will be the kind of first couple tracks we write to the first day and second day. And then while they're writing those 2 days, I'm making new stuff. That's kind of like at the request of the A&Rs and everyone there. But yeah, I don't sleep a ton when I'm there. So making the new tracks, mixing the records to the first tracks, and yeah, trying to get everything delivered by that Friday. So yeah, when I come home, I like crash for like a week. But out there, I'm up almost, not the entire time, but I'm maybe sleeping like 2-3 hours and then back to it for those like kind of those 4 or 5 days where it's pretty intense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the biggest tip to fix jet lag.
Yeah.
Just keep on working.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. Switching gears here, real quick, but
we got to do like a segment like with just kind of like a breakdown of your session. I think that'd be dope if we did that, like for our circuit board segment.
Definitely.
Oh yeah,
I'd be down for sure.
Another thing that you and Kairos have in common is your interest in the NFT space. What are some of your favorite projects, and why should people be open to the blockchain technology?
Oh yeah, I love NFTs. It's funny, I've got like my Invisible Friends Kith hoodie on right now. That's one of my favorite projects. I think right now I'm more into the art and some of the artists. I just got like this piece from this guy, Grant Yun. I think it's Yun, Y-U-N. He's my favorite kind of NFT artist right now. But yeah, I think the space is so interesting. My wife makes music and is an independent kind of singer-songwriter, and has been able to make a lot more money in the last year with a way smaller fan base, and a couple like dedicated fans than what she had been able to do prior, with just kind of uploading songs into the matrix and kind of hoping that somebody heard it and hoping to get on a playlist and all that. I'm like not a fan of Spotify and all that stuff. I've been kind of saying Spotify for a long time on my social media. But yeah, I think there's just a different community when you are an artist. It's hard for me to say because I'm not like selling NFTs. At this point, I'm like a fan and a collector. But I have seen my wife's kind of go through it but yeah, it just seems like there's a lot more support, a lot more one-on-one relationships that she's building with the people that supporting her, which is a lot of fun for her supporters. And I think for her too, I think she's getting a lot more out of making the music and seeing how it can impact people. But also, I mean, I could talk about this stuff forever, but the technology is incredible. I think every major label and every sports team will be releasing their tickets as NFTs soon. I think they all want to capitalize off that resale value. Like Taylor Swift releasing tickets for $500 and they're reselling for $10,000, and she doesn't get $1 of that. But if she releases an NFT, she would get $1, or she would get a percentage of that. And then there's like a digital collectible for the person that bought it to have kind of prove that they were at this concert. And I don't know, there's a lot of things that excite me about this space. I think it got really hot real quick and has died down a lot. So the people that are still here and building, I think, are going to be the ones that kind of reap the benefits when it comes back around. But yeah, it's an interesting space. I definitely bought into a bunch of projects that were terrible. Kind of learning the whole game. So I wouldn't recommend a certain project or anything right now, because I think it's still tough. But I do think that there are actual artists, whether it be music artists or digital artists, that are going to be around for longer than maybe some of these like PFP projects.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I've been saying this for some time now, but there's just so many exciting, I think, opportunities in Web3, especially for creators, because you kind of cut down the middleman, and you rely more on the blockchain to make sure there's more transparency. I mean, that's what we're looking for, right? Transparency, more accountability, and if we actually have less middle people kind of involved, then obviously we have more hands on. And
oh man, do you imagine if our publishing was on the blockchain? We could just see what dollar we're supposed to be getting.
Exactly. There's just so much, I feel like, that we can establish, in Web3 through, I mean, I kind of like the NFT is the cusp, like the early, like surface level of like, what's going on with what can happen, I guess, but
yeah, it's like the AOL of the internet.
Yep.
Like it's just the beginning kind of thing.
Yeah. I saw like, I think the creator of Invisible Friends, I was pointing out, like, I got the, right here, like my wife has that sweater too, and I think I put up all these things because I know we're big into NFTs here, but Wonder Pals, and
oh yeah, I love it.
But yeah, I mean, like I feel like right now, like we can definitely, in the bear market, I feel like you said, if everyone's building, the people that are building right now definitely have the opportunity to kind of hit that next wave.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm excited about it. I think I learned a lot, just kind of how fast everything got hot and then how fast everything got cold. But yeah, the actual technology and what I've seen it be able to do for artists is why I didn't leave the space, just because it kind of got into a bear market. I feel like I'm just as excited as ever.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw, but Marcus from Invisible Friends just posted something on like the like New Jeans, like it was like a tweet with like either him dancing,
some guy dancing
to.
I saw that today. I saw that.
I was like,
I replied to them. I was like, what are you guys talking about? K-pop,
right? Yeah, in Web3. So it's exciting.
I saw that today. That's funny.
Any words of advice to aspiring creators out there to stay on top of their game?
Yeah, I think the thing that helped me the most is being part of a team. Like starting at the bottom level of a team that's kind of doing what you want to do, I think is the quickest way to to get to where you want to go, but it's also the only way I really know. So it's the only way I could give advice. But yeah, I think if you can kind of join a team or help out some people that you're looking up to or that are getting the kind of cuts that you want to get and work your way up through that system is going to be the quickest way to be able to take advantage of relationships and all that type of stuff, rather than kind of cold emailing tracks or DMing random people and that stuff. I get a bunch of random DMs, and I answer them. And a lot of times, if there is something I could do to help, I will. But sometimes it's just like, hey, can you like send this song to SM or something? And I'm like, that I can't really help you there, because I'm not like that's just not what I'm here to do, is like send other people's music through. But if you're making music already, I think you just gotta find ways to stay motivated. I think I've been out here so long that I see people kind of go through different waves of emotions in the music industry, whether it's getting too high if they have a single out, and then the drop off that comes when you get too excited, or getting too down by not getting a cut or seeing other people's success. I try to really stay in the middle. I post about my song when the song comes out, and then I really am focused on trying to get another song out. I don't really spend the next month posting about the numbers it's doing or kind of just like locking myself into that song. I feel like once a song comes out, it's like the ticker starts where the song starts to not be cool anymore. It's like literally we're counting down to when the song is not cool. So I'm very just focused on trying to get that next song as soon as I do have a cut or some type of success in the industry. It just constantly trying to follow that up, instead of kind of basking in the success of that one song. Because there's music coming out every Friday, and yeah, it's just it's not getting any easier. Like the more amount of cuts I've had in the K-pop stuff, it doesn't mean I could send a mediocre song over and it's going to make an album. I feel like it's almost the opposite, that there's like a level of song that they're expecting from me, and that level keeps getting higher, and I keep trying to get to that level. So yeah, I think just keep trying to outdo yourself and don't get caught up in your own success is probably it would be my advice to people that are already doing it.
That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's definitely important. It doesn't get any easier. It gets better. Yeah, but it definitely doesn't get easier. I mean, Chick was on this podcast as well, and she even explained the story of having to create another overdose. And trying to reach that level of success, first off, is an achievement, but having to do that again and go beyond that.
I love Chick. Chick comes out to Korea with me.
Oh, nice.
Camps, and she's incredible. We both started at the Underdogs. So I've known Chick. Actually, I think we went out there together for the first time when we did Mr. Mister. It was both our first kind of K-pop experience.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. She actually told us that story too. That's cool.
Yeah, I love her.
Extremely talented.
Yeah, she really is. She's like the best.
Anything you would like to plug, somewhere that we could check or have our audience check you out, as well as any kind of future announcements, etc.?
Yeah, probably just my socials. I really don't have anything specific to plug. On Instagram, Shy Mike. On Twitter, I think it's like _ Shy Mike. I don't know what happened there. I got like kicked out of my Shy Mike account. but yeah, I'm in the NFT space. I released the NFT, and if you own my NFT, I've been releasing a monthly drum pack.
Oh, dope.
So if you get that, you get a free drum pack every month. And yeah, I'm kind of just trying to create a little community in the Web3 space without having to get like too, like, I'm not trying to go full on artist mode or anything. I just I'm trying to experiment a little bit and see what's going on. But yeah, I'm trying to think. I got a song coming out tomorrow that I'm excited about. TNX, I believe. Let me double check. Yeah, they have a song. Yeah, TNX on P Nation, which is like Psy's label.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the studio with Psy this week, which was awesome. I got to meet him for the first time. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, I got a song coming out tomorrow. I'm excited about a new group, and not SM. So most of my K-pop stuff is through SM. So always excited to be working with new labels and new teams and everything. But yeah, that's really it, I think.
Did you get your ENS domain?
I did.
Oh, you did.
I've had mine for a while. Did you get like the airdrop?
No.
Yeah, like I had mine for a while. I got like a airdrop of some free ENS tokens.
Okay.
Like yeah, at the time. But yeah, I've got a couple ENSs.
Yeah. I mean, like some of those ENS names are going for like millions.
Crazy. I know.
Crazy. Yeah.
Crazy.
Cool. Any of the hosts, Kairos, Jay Chong, you guys got something to share?
Oh yeah, my usual social handles at I am Jay Chong, and I think we had a song released with an artist out in Hong Kong a couple of days ago. Funny thing is, like some of these songs, with the metadata, I recommend all artists to, if you're going to release it in a different language, also have an English title to kind of go side by side. Yeah, because half these songs I release, I don't know the title of the songs because they're all written in the native language. Yeah, and that's actually been a pretty big issue with the whole metadata, and a lot of people are having trouble finding these songs on Spotify or Apple. But you can check some of those songs out on my Instagram. I'll be like reposting it and things like that. So come check it out at I am Jay Chong with JAE.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah, we got a lot of things that's happening right now with our publishing. I think we will soon share more about like our Web3 extension of our publishing as well. We're also going to add a lot of new features to Talkback on podcasts as well. And so there's a lot of things that we're working on. As we say in the Web3 community, community is a priority, and we definitely want to, provide value to, just any creators that are out there, not just only in K-pop, but just, overall in music. I think, when we talk about music and when we kind of share our different wins and struggles, it's like we all speak the same language, and I feel like this kind of community is something that I realized just even the beginning of the year, when we were kind of discussing different ideas, having this is so meaningful. I mean, we talked about Pensado's Place, how, important was that just even, while we were coming up, and how valuable was that, and so, I feel like the K-pop community, obviously we're seeing it grow. There's so much happening there. And, for us to be in it for as long as we have, it's just incredible to see where it's going. And, I feel like it's amazing to have a community like this. So, stick around and make sure, we, get the latest news on everything that we will start adding, this year.
For sure.
And then also shout out to Chick. We all love Chick, by the way.
Yeah, we love Chick. I'd love to talk to you about your. You have a JV publishing?
Yeah, we do with Warner Chappell.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I'd love to talk to you about that.
Yeah,
Cool.
so Yeah, we'll definitely talk more offline, but I mean, like that's something that it all started because when I was starting to do K-pop, it was so early on where publishing there was a lot of gray areas, and I'm sure,
Yeah.
and, like a lot of people, is working overseas. There were certain expectations that weren't met. And so early on, I mean, long story short, when Warner approached me about, renegotiating a deal, I kept on, extending that kind of conversation until finally I came back to LA. I was like, I remember I was like at SM, and then, the chairman like barged in trying to get me to, resign. And I was like, man, this is just not it. This is not how we're going to do it. And then, so when I came back to LA, I think the president, he came out and he was seeing, cause K-pop was starting to kind of, emerge. And, we started talking about some ideas, and I said, I'll tell you what, like, you help me figure out a way to help my friends, cause there are so many things that are happening right now where we're not seeing royalties, we're not seeing transparency, and there's got to be some changes, So if you allow me to give me some sort of platform to do that, and some sort of, resources where we can really establish some grounds, I think that's something. It's a start. So a few years ago, that's when, our Decade Plus Music Publishing Group, we started to really, come together, and figure out a way where we bridge that gap for foreign writers. And that has been a huge mission of ours. And so it's not just like a publishing thing. It's going back to the community, because so many of us, working overseas, it's been a challenge, over the years, and we provide a lot of songs, and we hear these songs, we see the music videos, we see all these things happening, but without this, like, I'm sure, you stand by this, without songwriters or producers, there's nothing, and so, we just wanted to provide that kind of voice. And, that's something that we feel very strongly about and very passionate about.
Yeah, probably the number one question I get asked by people that are already kind of getting cuts is about their publishing not being right, or them not making any money and stuff. So I'm grateful I got brought in by who I got brought in by, and my stuff's kind of always been set up. But again, that's just how like I am. I'm always thinking about the business also. So, but yeah, I love that you're doing that for people. It's something I'm interested in doing also. I just kind of haven't crossed that bridge yet.
It wasn't until they start understanding, wow, like, we need to bridge that gap in culture and expectations. Like, who can actually do that? And they also needed people that spoke the language. They also needed to, people that also understood, where, the origins of K-pop and all these different factors that I think people weren't considering. And so once, that was all coming into place, the conversations were a lot more fluid, and we were able to build more trust through that. So right now, I feel like they're definitely still like, the middle people, when we talk about self-publishing culture, it's dirty, it's corrupt. There's a lot of things that I wish would change. But now, like a publishing company like Decade Plus Music, when we come around, there has to be more accountability, because we know what's going on, and we'll we're not afraid to call out on that. But what's happening is because we also have the backing and the power from a publisher like Warner, we can audit, right? We can audit the royalty, go in there and we can check and make sure that they all match up, the numbers match up, and we also provide the worldwide service, which is different from the sub-publishing function. In this kind of like routine. So a lot of times, people have to rely on the sub-publishing. It's like, well, how much money can you get from me? Well, I collect this much from Japan and this much from Korea. How about everywhere else? Well, you have to figure that out. So then, there's all this money unclaimed sitting there. And then, now finally, some of my peers are realizing what I've been talking about. And they're saying, what, I got to go out and collect that rest of the money. And I said, yeah, hopefully it's still there because there are other people actively trying to go out there and collect it themselves. So yeah, there's a lot going on, but I think more and more, we want to try to bring this more in the forefront, because this is a type of conversation that we're not having. And because we're not having these type of conversations, the bad guys are going to continue to do what they're doing. So, it's really kind of more about that. And, I'm sure you guys can see the challenges that come along with that. But, it's important to us, and it's important to our peers, our friends, our co-writers. And, we're definitely making that a mission,
Nice.
Yeah. I think one important thing Mike Daly pointed out is investing and building relationships. Whether you're starting out from the bottom or rising up to the top, invest in those relationships because it could lead from one thing to another. Hope you guys enjoy this one, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.